if their own biological son would become rich in his honor, in contrast to be rich himself and be fooled into raising a kid that isn't his and never have his own. Delican Flim, feminism inadvertently gives all the power to the top 1% of men. In time, they will be shown only to the winners. Darius Gibson, $50 super chat. Woo! Get Isha camera. Okay.
Real one. I see you.
Feminism is a movement meant for female liberation, and now it has become weaponized and a finesse movement. Men must be traditional while women must be modern. David Thompson, the leadership for men in the household is not a license for tyranny, though bad men have used it in that way. Feminism overcorrected and destroyed homes. We need to fix homes and return to Jesus. Sylvan Slater, I'm trans, and feminism is using the trans community as a weapon against men to justify man-hating. Dragon Stallion 1001, Hetty Green in 1900 was titled the richest woman in America, and she was a Wall Street financier and businesswoman. She worked her butt off and didn't demand to have things given to her. The UK Economist, all those feminists left Ukraine while their men were forced to stay and die for their nation. Great that equality is working in Ukraine. Sentience. Feminism has greatly helped the men who have their stuff together to get laid without commitment. I implore most women to follow it while I invest in their future. Loneliness via cat food, dog, and wine. Delicious tears. The UK Economist. Look at the communities where the youth gang violence is common. There's a lack of traditional family values and two-parent homes that benefit kids. STFU, FFS. It takes y'all hours to decide on food. I ain't waiting on a rub and tug for you to make up your effing mind. Kazumu, baby boomers from World War II are our grandparents. Zentians, another $50 super chat.
Thank you.
Zentians, I love you. Okay. If studies show corn and its ill effects, would people agree that P work is real work? Furthermore, since corn and social media are the same, would people consider social media people the same as P work on how they affect their brain? STFU, FFS, being corn. Before corn, I had an imagination, and that was the last one.
You might want to refresh.
There's more?
We've had, quite a few.
Okay, they really want to get you a camera, huh?
Yeah, rules.
They really,
I appreciate you.
You guys want to know what Ish looks like? Send money. Send money.
Yeah, put a 1 in the chat if you do.
Yeah, 1 in the chat. Okay. Also, guys, like the video. It is really important that you guys are liking the video for the algorithm. Okay, Derek Walker. Dude on the left is regurgitating everything I've heard my whole life. I'm 43. The game's changed, and we've got to adjust or continue living in pain. Angel Pearl, do you realize the claims you make are very extreme based off of stats which you do not provide the source of but are also wrong? Which ones? Zernax, any women who desires a family but doesn't prepare for it, like she would be a doctor, is saying it would be nice if she has a family. Actions and behaviors define beliefs. If they conflict, change behavior. Jerome Dunbar, what is he going to do with the camera? It's like every time he talks, he's going to...
Yeah, you're going to see me every time I talk.
Yeah.
I won't just be a voice in the background.
Yeah.
What is he going to do with the camera?
He's going to be on it. Like, what the... Okay. Josh, people talk about accountability, but as soon as gray hat holds men accountable, it's a problem. Ed Boat, bro on the we did that one. And then there's a $1 super chat from Casman Merchant. No message, just a super chat. Appreciate you. I'm gonna refresh it one more time, guys. One more time, just to make sure. Okay.
They said woman in the white hat. I'm looking around. I'm like, who has a white hat on? And I'm like,
Going hard today.
I didn't know the stigma with OnlyFans and Americans. I haven't met anyone use this application, but the reaction is very strong.
You saw my stories, man.
Okay, so question. Do you think that women not having children is part of the reason that we're on antidepressants, especially because single childless women over the age of 45 are ranked the least happy? On top of that, antidepressants are rising in the U.S., mostly in women, and women are twice as likely as men to be on antidepressants.
I feel like in general, people are lacking purpose. They're being told things like, having a successful career or buying a house is going to make you feel happy. And maybe not for everyone that's going to make them happy. Potentially for women, biologically, having children is something that's likely to make them happy. So yeah, there could be a link there, definitely.
I don't think so as much. I think there's probably a link, but there's also other things. I think anxiety and depression and mental health is becoming more commonplace.
Yeah.
Those issues are becoming more common anyway. So the assumption that it's because of, changing gender roles and family aesthetics is, I don't think is, necessarily accurate.
So you think it was always there, it's just coming to the forefront?
No, I think it's being exacerbated by social media, by the type of foods we eat now, by the kind of social influences we have now, by the fact that society's changed so quickly that a lot of the things that our parents would have taken kind of refuge in, like the family structure, is almost non-existent, and now people are having to find all these different ways to exist and to find meaning, and a lot of them are failing at that.
Well, no, I definitely agree that social media, I think, is part of it, and I would guess probably obesity too, like the rising obesity, rising obesity, especially in the U.S.
Oh, for sure.
But I think women are biologically, like, we want to have kids, and I think women end up really unhappy when we don't. And a lot of times, like, I've had girls that said they didn't want kids, and then they found out they were infertile. And they're devastated.
Yeah.
I think that'd be a savage blow to find out that kind of stuff. And I think, speaking on it, if you speak to any mother, and good mothers I'm talking about, I'm not talking about the exceptions, this, that, and the other. But what I'm saying here is most of them will be like, you're the best thing that's ever happened to me. Like, I had you, you're one of the best things, I love you, and this, that, and the other. So I think it's crazy that there's almost a narrative being pushed is that children's a burden, it's a difficulty. Like, you have a superpower. You literally have a superpower to create life. So I don't understand how you don't think that's a good thing. And I think a lot of feminists as well will push this kind of like, if you're not strong and independent, that you are a failure as a housewife or as a woman who decides to have children. You're a failure, and it's shamed.
Well, I had a TikTok of my friend. She's a housewife, and I did a video just her talking about how she got to be in that situation, right, and how much she loves her husband, and it went stupid viral. Like, Joe Rogan saw it because. And it's crazy that she went viral for literally loving her husband and being a housewife. That's it.
Yeah.
No.
From that, I was looking at some of the comments, and a lot of women were like, "Oh, you shouldn't submit." I think the word submissive is like a
Trigger word.
It's a trigger word, yeah. Because when women hear submissive, it's like we think that we have to fall back, die down, not be a woman, and pretty much be your slave. And I think that that's something that feminism has said, don't be submissive, be independent, be strong, blah, blah, blah. But you can be submissive to your husband and still be able to, I would say, be a woman. It's not like they're taking away your womanhood. So I would say that submissive.
Well, you submit to your boss. You submit to a coach.
But people don't think of it like that when it comes to certain things like that. When it comes to relationship between a man and a woman, submissive is just no, never.
What were you gonna say?
Do you think it's possible to have a fulfilling life without kids? Because if we're gonna go on the premise that women are upset because they can't have, do you think women?
I think it can be a lot of fun while you're still hot and young. And as women, I don't think we understand the amount of typically the amount of attention that we get and just benefits in the world by being young and pretty. But it's a different tune at 45.
55 alone, with cats, depressed.
Do you think 55 and by yourself, no family?
And remember, you're a man, so you're thinking of it from a man's perspective.
Yeah,
As a man, that's not really a problem because most men are okay being alone. Women are different.
I think it's about community, right? Maybe because I think that may well be an issue that as humans we have to face more and more often. Is that everyone can't have kids all the time, right? You can't manage a population like that if everyone felt I'm here.
Birth rates are going down right now. It's a massive issue.
That's natural though, because everything's expensive. So why would you have loads of kids?
Then why does the lower income population have more children? If they make more money, they have less kids.
Yeah, it's a class.
But
thing involved.
What do you mean it's a class thing involved?
It's educated informed people tend to make more educated, informed decisions, and so.
But that's
and
the
that would be
scary
having
part
a
as well.
child, right? And so they would have less children as opposed to uneducated people who would.
But you would think that people who make more money would have the majority of kids because they can't afford them, and the people who don't have money would have less kids because they can't afford them.
Yeah, it's not what's happening, but I just don't think it's sustainable if we carry on with kind of the traditional mindset of like, yeah, everyone should have kids. Firstly, I don't think everyone should have kids. I think there are a lot of people who aren't developed enough as human beings to have kids. And I think one thing that's overlooked with the traditional family narrative, traditional family structure narrative is that, everyone had kids and everyone was all happy. But, you had these issues with women who were, incredibly underutilized and underfulfilled in their roles. People had to be really boxed in for the traditional way of life to be feasible. And now you have more freedom. As a natural consequence, you have less kids. I just don't really see how it could be everyone.
So what do you mean when you said they were boxed in? Because we just talked about a self-made millionaire in the 1900s.
Yeah.
A woman who did that. How are we boxed in?
As in, so you could name like a female millionaire, but that would be kind of an example that is outside of the norm.
Right, it's not the norm, but you could do it if you wanted to do it, because she did it. What's really what's holding us back?
Well, is it the norm in society in general anyway?
Well,
even as a man or a woman?
No, I'm saying at that time that's not the norm.
No.
I would say the biggest thing that was holding women back is like birth control. Like, they get knocked up. How many of our grandparents had shotgun weddings?
But even just the ideas that were common at the time, like people feeling like say
what ideas?
So say to get rich in that woman's role, I don't know anything about this woman, but let's say she had to get a good job to then have the opportunity to make even more money. Then access to that good job would have been kind of the key to her success. Maybe in those times, maybe women didn't actively do those kind of jobs, and so she would have been turned down purely because of being a woman. Maybe she would have been less likely to be supported and motivated and pushed towards reaching that potential. You can't deny that in the past there was all these kind of boxes that people had to fill in, both men and women.
I would say there was more consequences, where women had to face the consequences of their own actions. So, like, we couldn't vote, right? But that came with being drafted. That was a consequence. So more freedom comes with more responsibility. And it's the same thing with birth control. So back then, if most people were sexually active quite young, like before the average age of first marriage now is 27. I don't know when people had sex there, but like you get pregnant, like that's a consequence. So now we're taking away the consequences for women.
And also, most millionaires are self-made. They're not employed into it. So that's one of the biggest factors as well, is that they're self-made. That
really?
Most millionaires are self-made.
I read that it was most wealth was inherited.
No, that's not true.
Okay, I have to look into that. But I read that the vast majority of wealth is inherited. The idea that.
But with those inheritance, like where did it come from? Did it come from someone working a lot at a business that they were hired at, or did it come from them being self-made?
It came from parents. That was the idea.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. What did the parents do for them to inherit?
88% of all millionaires are self-made.
In which country?
88%. That's in the U.S.
88% are self-made.
Yeah, and the U.S. has the majority of millionaires and billionaires.
That is true.
So they weren't millionaires and then they became purely through their own actions.
I mean, yeah, that's what my dad did. He was born one of 13 kids in the south side of Chicago. They like all shared rooms. They're very poor. Yeah. And then he just worked 80 hours a week my whole life. People don't understand what goes into being a millionaire. Like, I barely saw him growing up, to be honest. Great guy. Love my dad. I get to see him all I want now. But like most people, men and women, don't want to work 80 hours a week for 40 years.
Was your mother a stay-at-home mom?
No, she helped him build his business. So they like worked on it together. They had 10 kids.
So in building this business, they made 10 kids.
Yeah, I mean, like, don't get me. There was trade-offs. Like that's what I'm saying. Life is about trade-offs. So even with them, like we had nannies. They helped us. Like there was times where I didn't see my parents.
But I guess you could afford to have nannies as well.
Yeah, at that point, not when we started, not when they started.
Yeah, I just feel like because you mentioned something about a woman has, and I'm very like, I hold back a lot when I speak on this because I don't think as a man I have how much right to speak on a woman or a woman's body, but when you said a woman has this superpower to create life essentially. Do you feel like because you have this superpower that you must use it? And if you don't use it, is it a bad thing?
It's a waste.
It's a waste? But okay. But is it your is it your fault that you've been given this superpower and it's almost like you're expected to do something with it? What if you don't want to do something with it?
Then it's a waste. Don't get me wrong, there's no expectation on you. Or there is an expectation on you, but like...
But how's that fair?
Life isn't fair.
Life isn't fair.
It's a waste.
It's a
What
waste.
do you mean? What do you like as a
It's like
person?
it's like being given $1 million
And then you decide to throw it
don't
away.
Spend it.
It's a waste.
I mean, good parents will tell you their kids is the best thing that's ever happened to them.
Well,
No,
not every parent, right?
because you can
first,
be a good parent and have a bad kid, and you probably regret why did I bring.
Right, but you're looking at exceptions rather. Would you say most parents would say their kids are the best things that have ever happened to them, and their life is more fulfilled by having kids?
Depends where.
You wouldn't say by and large. We're gonna look for the exception.
Well, I don't know. It's hard to say because
It depends.
Would you not say having a legacy and having grandkids, great grandkids potentially, like if you're in good health or something like that, having just so many beings coming from you, and you created all this life, like your employer doesn't give a single fuck about you, so. Yeah, people want to pursue the career and this, that, and the other. Fair enough. If that's what you want, and that's you don't want kids, you never want your kids and stuff like that. But how much of it's programmed, and how much of it's the people just listening to what's going on, and then.
And how much is it trauma? I've heard so many people say they don't want to have kids because they're afraid they can't raise them because maybe their parents weren't great, or maybe they had bad relationship after bad relationship, and they don't feel like they can find someone that they actually love and want to start a family with.
I respect that so much because I'm Nigerian, right? And so part of this traditional mindset it's common in Nigeria. People just we had a driver. My dad's in politics, so you have all these drivers, people, to drive you around. And this guy had like 9 kids, and he would be asking for like a raise every couple of months. Like, you gotta feed these kids,
it's illogical.
This is an uneducated man in like some town in Nigeria. He's like our chauffeur. Like if we fired him, that's like 12 people who are in deep poverty. And these are kids that I know you're not talking to. Who has the time to raise 12 reasonably kind of well-rounded human beings when you're just one person and you've got a job?
That's what my dad's family did.
But your dad's an exception, right? He became a millionaire.
Not really. In Irish Catholics, they always had big families. That's what I'm saying. Like, why is it just because they're poor? Like, are they less valuable because they're poor?
What comes with poverty as well?
It's poverty.
It's not just because they're poor, but with for example, that example, I can relate to that. I'm Congolese, and we have much of the same thing. Like even till today, 2022, I have uncles who are making babies at a crazy rate, but you can't find the means to feed your
got a lot of baby mamas. He
has
kids everywhere.
He has kids, but again, I think because of he's not well educated himself. Now he's making all these human beings, and he's not able. He's a drunk, right? He's not able to be a great male role model for them. Now I have to agree, because even working in the youth sector, you see that a lot, and of a lot of the young people that I work with, I kind of feel sorry for them, because it's like they've been birthed and they've been put into this world without the right support. You could argue that these are few and far in between, and the majority of people come from stable households where they can afford, to have a decent education.
You should be married before you have a child. So, like, I agree
100%.
with you. You should be married before you have a child. So if he's like, you know, getting girls pregnant left and right, that's not conducive for a family.
No, it's not.
The scary part you're also saying, and this is a big problem as well, is that a lot of higher IQ individuals are not having kids. And usually it's because they're thinking, oh, I need to make a financial decision about this, that, and the other. And loads and loads of low IQ individuals are having loads of kids, which then, as a population...
They have more
makes us
time,
dumber.
though. They have more time to have
Well,
more
you
kids.
realize, like, the birth rate is declining. Like, where our population is, at least in the U.S., it's getting smaller and smaller.
Same in the UK.
Which isn't good for an economy.
Everywhere. Same in Nigeria. There's people who, you know, can't, like, a lot of people who are saying, I won't have kids, which is, like, really weird for Nigeria, given, like, you know, people aren't using protection. Yeah, because they've grown up with, like, 15 siblings in, like, a shack in somewhere. And they
So what they're saying that they don't want to have
they
kids.
don't want to have, they can't
Because of that
stand it.
experience.
Yeah, I think it's a natural progression of, like, society and people's mentalities. In my view, to have kids, you have to be somewhat qualified. You know, I don't think it's like everyone's got a superpower and everyone should use it. And the biggest thing you can do is, it's like, no, have a plan, get married, you know, be qualified, be well-rounded, you know, stable individuals, and then make the calculated decision.
I agree with you.
Not everyone can do that, though.
I think most people can. If women can, what the hell? If you make the right decisions as a woman, every girl can have a child. Oh, come on! You're telling me a girl that's 120? I don't even care. She could be a 4. If she gets a good body, marries young, she can marry rich and be a housewife. What do you mean? Every girl can reproduce.
Yeah,
Men swipe
that's
right
what she
50% of the time on dating apps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
If that's
Yeah,
what
they
she
can.
but girl, yeah.
She's got
So-
a 1 in 2 chance.
Yeah.
And
And honestly, the girls that are getting swiped left on, if they lost 50 pounds, they'd probably be in the right category.
Yeah.
It
So,
sucks.
like,
But based on looks, and then there's, like, being a well-rounded person, then there's
yeah,
having
but
the
come on,
means and
come on, stop the
resources.
Yeah, but
cap.
if
No,
you're-
guys,
Stop the
guys,
cap,
Yeah,
thank
stop
you.
the cap. Guys are not like. We know what we want. We want
okay,
attractive
thank
women,
you.
right?
Yeah.
Attractive feminine women typically.
But I'm talking about, like, mindfully creating a child, not just like, oh yeah, because she's hot.
okay. Like, we agree. We agree. Get married first. Get married first. But I'm saying every girl has the opportunity if she wants to get married. It might not be to the guy she wants. Maybe she wants a guy that's out of her league, but men are swiping right 50% of the time. If she's not getting swiped right on, lose 50 pounds. I'm sure the guys will swipe right on you then.
Wow.
Yeah, no,
Can I
you're,
just
you're right.
can I just ask the man and the guys a question? Do you want a housewife?
No.
Do you want a housewife?
Yeah, why not? See,
Okay.
one
What
thing
about
that
yourself?
Pardon?
You want a housewife?
No,
why?
because the kind of life that I live and I'm going to lead, I need. Well, because the thing is, the reason I say no is because traditionally housewives they're seen as unintelligent. They're seen as
In the West, or
in the West.
yeah.
Are you talking about wags? Like footballers' wives?
Famous.
Oh no, I
housewives.
don't want that.
Yeah, but then I'm just trying to understand where you think a house...
I don't. Well, okay, from my experiences,
Okay.
or should I say from my background, when you talk about a housewife, and then I don't even feel like it's they are incapable of doing more, but they just feel like they are obligated to do that. Like, but if I take my mother for example, yeah, she's the most amazing woman I've ever met. I really don't know how she manages to do everything that she does, but she's a very successful and biomedical scientist, author and businesswoman. But with a lot of young girls, especially, they say to her like, "What? We don't understand how you're able to do what you have done. Like you prioritized your career, and you've done well for yourself, but you still had children." Okay, I know how she did it. She took gaps. She took gaps.
Trade-off.
She took gaps. She had like every child every like 9 years or so.
Yeah, I'm not saying every girl should be a housewife. That's that's a luxury. Most
what's the
girls don't
opposite?
get to be a housewife. I'm
No,
saying
I
there's
think-
trade-offs.
What's the opposite of a housewife.
A modern woman.
One of those like
career
against,
woman.
Career-driven
a
woman.
surrogate mother. You know, like
Yeah.
But do you not think like it would also motivate you as a man to make more money
If I have a housewife.
Definitely.
Well, and if you have more kids,
Facts.
That's why it's a
Because-
no for me.
If I
yeah,
have
but
more
I mean,
kids.
is that just
That's
laziness?
stress.
Or
Yeah.
is
That's stress.
Dad, is that why? Is that why
Pressure,
you
innit?
did
Pressure.
so well?
No, so if I mess up, we're all done.
No, but like it was so interesting when you said about the guy in Nigeria and he was trying to feed his family, like, and you put a negative spin, which is fair enough. But I looked at it and I went, this guy's hustling for his kids. Like he's out here asking for a raise every however many months it is to feed his family. And what happens is one of them kids is going to be successful. Out of 10, what, they're all going to be bums? Nah, there's going to be one that's going to go, I'm going to change my life for someone. And like,
Might be successful, but turn out to be a shit person. Because
Why is that your default? Why is that?
no, because
Like, 'cause
if you think about it logically, if he has, say it's a boy, for example, right? Can't really talk about the girls too much, but say it's a boy, right? And his dad is always out working. His dad's not there. He might see a great example, like, wow, my dad's a hustler. He's making it, all of that, but he's got to be missing something in him because his father wasn't there to teach him certain lessons. And I'm seeing that today. Fair play. He can turn out to be, a billionaire, a great person, but
He could.
trade-off.
But he could also be a great person.
Yeah.
So why is
he
that?
could,
like
but
that?
that's
Why
very
is-
unlikely.
It's unlikely.
It's unlikely.
I don't think
What evidence do you have to support that?
It's unlikely. Trust me.
What evidence? No,
Trust me.
Man said,
Working-
No, no, no,
working-
okay,
working
okay,
in the youth
okay.
sector, a lot of
one at a time.
But I'll give you an example. My dad was gone all the time. All of my siblings make six figures, and they're all very nice people.
exceptions to the rule.
We'd adopted 3 children that weren't ours.
Your
My
family's-
family's like very, very kind.
But in your family, okay,
And that's what I'm saying. I don't think it's an exception because we know a lot of families very similar where the dad works a lot. This is very common where I'm from.
I'm saying it from the point where I've lived in London. I've grew up in London. I've grew up in some of the poorest parts in London. That's where I'm looking at from. I've seen dads who are trying to be good dads, and there's nothing wrong with that. Trying to be a good dad, but I just feel like with a lot of men, we're programmed to feel like, okay, I'm gonna go out there, I'm gonna make the money, I'm gonna bring the money home, and that's it. I'm a great dad. Where there's more to it.
But-
And especially as a boy, you require more from your father. Fair play that they might be successful, but then they're going to grow up to be a certain kind of,
I see where you're coming from.
right? You see?
I can understand what you're saying. I wouldn't necessarily say that he might turn out as a bad person, but I can say that he may grow up to be a great person, but there may be things that he's lacking from his adolescence that his father needed to add, or whoever it is, that now as an adult they have to deal with that lack and work through it, understand it, like you had to do with whatever situation you had happened to
And
you
then-
in your adolescence, and you had to work through it and process it.
I've done the work. If he doesn't do the work, he's going to have kids, and he's going to then pass that on. Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
So, all I'm trying to say is, similar to what everyone else is saying, it's great. You have the options there, but we need to understand what you're giving up, like what the trade-off is. You have 9 kids, you're working, you're hustling. It's great.
But I think that's a great father who's hustling for his children.
Yeah.
And the trade-off is he's gone a lot.
I'm not saying that. I'm not faulting him for going out and
Men go to war.
and
Yeah.
no. I'm not faulting.
Like-
I'm not faulting the men that do that.
Men, even historically, men weren't around like that much.
Would you say, just a quick question, would you say that that's coming from the lens of London, one of the most expensive cities in the world? Because obviously, there are societies that you may be able to move to, or the suburbs or something like that, where you might be able to stimulate that big family and make it affordable and be...
Historically, this doesn't make sense because 8,000 years ago, 17 women reproduced for one man. You're telling me everyone that is alive today is emotionally damaged? Historically?
Yeah.
17 women reproduced for every one man. What, the dad's going to be around for 17 kids?
No, I'm not saying that he has to be or he shouldn't be. All I'm saying is understanding like what, because we're talking about the trade-offs, understanding what the trade-off is.
But your default is like, oh, they're going to be bad people. But historically, 17 women reproduced for every one man. So historically, is everyone a bad person? Because that was your default.
I feel like we all have things in us that we can always develop, and depending on our upbringing and where we grew up and the kind of people that we were around. For a lot of us, we were around our parents. But if you lack that, then the chances are that you're not going to be as self-developed as you have to be. And then you're going to take that and then produce another kid.
But does
and then
that make them bad? Does that make them bad people?
Doesn't necessarily make them bad, but it can make them bad.
Well, you're kind of asking people...
Depending on the choices that they make through that. See, someone like myself, going through certain traumas that I then had to do the work to do, I could have taken those traumas and do what a lot of other young people do as a result.
As many of you know, I was just banned on TikTok, and we are demonetized on a daily basis on this platform. If you want to help, please consider sending a super thanks below. Every donation helps, and it helps make what we do possible.